hi, welcome everybody. My name is Mihaly Arvai. Well, we can practice the pronunciation after the session. I'm a Sitecore lead developer at Wunderman Thompson Budapest, and I'm a two-time Sitecore MVP. And today I would like to talk about our learnings about Sitecore Managed Cloud. So today I will briefly introduce Sitecore Managed Cloud. Also, I would like to tell a couple of sentences about our project. I will show a couple of tools and skills what you should learn, and finally I will share some improvement and tips which was made by us. So what is Sitecore Managed Cloud? Sitecore Managed Cloud is a cloud-based hosting service provided by Sitecore. It hosts, manages, and monitors, maintains Sitecore XM, XP, and XC. It not only monitors the application, but it also monitors the infrastructure. It's completely deployed on Microsoft Azure. And you can decide if you want to go with ops services or with containers. Today I will only talk about the containers part. There are a couple of benefits of using Sitecore Managed Cloud, because as I previously mentioned, currently it only supports the XM, XP, and XC. You have full access to the instance even though it's managed by Sitecore. And of course, because of that, you can deploy your own application, you can customize the Kubernetes services in the cluster and so on. There is an advanced monitoring in place, and there is a support for production deployment from Sitecore. And also it easily supports scalability, and this also includes the automatic scaling options. So what's included in this Sitecore Managed Cloud subscription? It has full-time support, super low response time on incidents. There is assistance around the infrastructure scaling from Sitecore, disaster recovery solutions, and advanced infrastructure monitoring. And also, the Managed Cloud subscription contains additional services such as Solar, Front Door, Key Vault, and so on. So basically, Sitecore Managed Cloud comes with everything which is necessary to run Sitecore. It has an Azure subscription, and that Azure subscription contains the previously mentioned Azure services such as the Front Door, the Container Registry, Key Vault, Secure Elastic Pool. The Kubernetes service contains the Sitecore roles, for example, the content delivery, the content management role, and the XDB roles too. Besides that, the cluster contains some extra services, for example, Grafana, Prometheus, Alert Manager. I have to highlight that it's only part of the Managed Cloud. So if you want to deploy your container images into your own Azure Kubernetes services, these additional services and containers or pods does not part of the official container deployment package. So you should install them manually. And this is true for the external services because Sitecore also configures the Solar and the Elastic Cloud. And they will also provide an Azure DevOps, but let's talk about it a bit later. So the project, this went live at the beginning of this year. It's a Sitecore 10 project using SXA, using Sitecore forms. It has many customization around Sitecore forms. Later we will integrate Coveo. So I think it's a really interesting project in the classic experience platform world. We have a special dual site running approach in place, because the first couple of phases is only about replatforming, and the client wants to roll out new page types continuously. And there are some license expiration from the old platform, but they also want to keep the old platform for some page types. Fortunately, Managed Cloud has this Front Door out-of-box configured, so we could apply some routing rules, and that made possible that couple of URLs is served from the new Sitecore-based platform, but couple of URLs is served from the old platform. That means we had to implement the same look and feel for components which are shared between pages, for example, the headers and the footer, so the end visitors will see no differences between the old platform and the new Sitecore-based platform. Okay, so let's see what kind of skills and tools you should learn. First, of course, you need to know Azure, because there are many Azure services configured by Sitecore, the Elastic Pool, and so on. Also, you should have at least a basic understanding of Azure DevOps, because Sitecore Managed Cloud comes with a DevOps project, so you need to know how to modify, extend, customize, or create Sitecore pipelines in the Azure DevOps. You should know Docker and Kubernetes, of course, and you should know how to build custom images, how to install Sitecore modules in the containers world. kubectl will be probably one of your best friends, because it's a command line tool which allows you to manage the cluster from your command line. And the Ansible playbook, this is an enterprise automation tool. This is used by the Managed Cloud release pipeline, so it's definitely worth to check it. So let's see what we had to do at the beginning of the project and what we received from Sitecore. First of all, client made their contract about the Sitecore managed subscription. After that, we could request the Managed Cloud environment via the support portal. I believe it took a couple of days, but after that, we received MVI environment in Managed Cloud. Everything was configured, including the external services. So there was a clean, running vanilla Sitecore in place. It's important to highlight that deploying additional modules or Sitecore roles, for example, SXA or Horizon, and of course your application, will be your responsibility. Sitecore will not install any module or additional role. You should do that. Also, we received that the previously mentioned Azure DevOps project. The DevOps project has 2 pipelines and 2 repositories. One is for the managing infrastructure, which manages actually the resources in Azure. So if you want to do any customization or any changes in the front door configuration or on the SQL Elastic Pool, then you can do it in this repository and with this pipeline. Also, there is an application repository and pipeline in place. That is the pipeline and the repository which manages the cluster and the services inside the cluster. So if you want to deploy your own custom images or install a Sitecore module or a new role, then this is the repository which you have to modify. And also we received the external services, the Search Text Solar and the Elasticsearch. Okay, so you need to prepare your code. First of all, you should prepare your custom Docker images. Once it's ready and you built it, you should push it to the Azure Container Registry. After that, you should clone the application repository from the DevOps project, and there will be a Docker images JSON file. This is the JSON file which contains the information about which images will be deployed to which pod. So by default, there are the Sitecore-based images, so you need to update those URLs to your container registry URLs. And after the next application pipeline, the Kubernetes will pull the new images and it will be deployed properly to the corresponding Kubernetes pod. So in container world, you may already know that you shouldn't use package installers. Instead of that, for Sitecore item changes, you should use CQL and Solar init jobs, and additional assets such as the module binaries, file views, and so on should be part of the CM container. If a module supports Sitecore 10.1, there is a chance that it utilizes item as resource files. In that case, you shouldn't create an init jobs container for item changes, because probably it will be the part of the CM container as resource files. There are quite good documentation available on Sitecore site about how to install different modules and roles in Managed Cloud. I also published a video on Discover Sitecore channel about how to Dockerize your Sitecore module, and I believe the next session in the room will be also about the same topic. So we received and we requested 4 environments in Managed Cloud. That could be really expensive. 2 for testing purposes, 1 for pre-production, and 1 for production. That means we have 4 Azure subscription, 4 Azure DevOps project. Each subscription has their own Kubernetes service and their own container registry. And Kubernetes services pulls the images from the corresponding container registry. That means if we build a custom images, we should tag the same image multiple times and push it to 4 different ACR, and we should maintain 4 different ACR. So that's maybe not so efficient. So instead of this, we created an additional pipeline in the first DevOps project. That's a container build pipeline that pulls the code from an external Bitbucket repository, runs some Docker compose and Docker build command, and pushes the custom images into the dev subscriptions container registry. We requested some service principal and some help from Sitecore, but they were very kind and helped us. So after that service principal configuration, the Kubernetes services from other subscriptions were able to pull the images from the development environment subscription. So now we have a kind of single source of truth for container images, and we had to only maintain 1 container registry. Stack-based deployment. By default, I showed it previously, if you want to deploy new container images, then you should update manually the tags and the container registry URL in the application repository in the Docker image JSON file. So that means if you build a new image with a new tag, then you have to do this update manually. Again, this is not so efficient. So instead of this, we removed the tag from that image JSON file. We made some changes in the Azure pipelines and related Kubernetes files. And thanks to these changes, we have a new input when we want to start a new release via Azure DevOps. And we can specify the image tag, what we want to deploy. So that means we have full control over what images will be deployed to which environment. Well, I believe a detailed blog post will follow this session soon, because 15 minutes is quite short to introduce every improvements. And finally, let's talk about the secrets. So in containers world, you are using environment-specific variables for managing, changing Sitecore configurations. In Managed Cloud, these secrets is stored in Azure Key Vault, and they are loaded into the Kubernetes as secrets via the Kubernetes secret store driver. And once they are loaded as a secret, they can be mounted into a single pod via environment variables. So let's assume you want to introduce some environment-specific settings in your configuration. Let's see what you should do in your code in order to support this. So this is how you can add environment variables to your Sitecore configuration. These commands or tokens will be replaced during runtime and will be evaluated based on the environment variables which is set there. But also you can directly read environment variables from your code using environment.getVariables command. I did it in an identity server plugin. And once you made these changes on your local, you should add those variables, those environment variables to your environment variable files. And you can mount it to the given container images, and they will be available. And if it's working properly in your local Docker, then you can follow this link because it's super detailed, step-by-step. It contains super detailed step-by-step instruction about how to add those secrets and those environment variables to Key Vault. And yeah, that's all. You can find me on many social channels, and you can reach me for further questions after this session. So thank you for your attendance.
Thank you very much.